Welcome to One Topic, where we stick to one topic. My name is Greg Russ. Autumn Fisher, once again, not with me. She travels a lot for a person who has no money. And I will tell you, she has zero money. When she's complaining about it, she is not lying. I don't know how these trips are being funded. But once again, she is not here. And I can't act like I'm much better considering it's Saturday. And we've never released a show on Saturday before. This is very late in the week. But it was a stressful week. A lot. I don't deal with stress that well. And I tend to shut down when I'm feeling stressed. I just avoid. I like to disappear. Don't fucking ask me questions. I don't have feelings anymore in those moments. Because if I really did explain my feelings to you, you would be horrified. You would say, you're a monster. I never want to talk to you again. So it's much easier for me to say, everything's fine, and just get you the hell out of my space. Something like now, coming into the recording of the show, there's a person somewhere out there. I don't know where they are. There's just a constant humming sound. That's the pitch. I had to find the pitch. And it's been going on for the last 20 minutes. And I want to record the show. And this asshole, who gives a shit if people need to do podcasts? I need to do my sanding or my tree cutting or my electric lawn mowing or whatever the fuck it is. Sanding. My jigsaw is fired up because I have to make a puzzle today. Puzzle making's my hobby. You can find all my work on my Insta account. I'm really growing my followers, and my puzzles are going to be the top puzzles in the world. And I know that my jigsaw's running for 12 hours a day on a weekend when people are trying to relax, and that I'm doing it in my small Brooklyn backyard. But, you know, the heart wants what the heart wants. And the heart wants fame. The heart wants good puzzle making. Not attention. It's not the puzzle fame I'm after. It's the puzzle itself that I'm looking to make, because puzzles are my life. When I was a small kid, I used to sit down with Grandpappy. He'd come down. We moved to Louisiana when I was 2, and we left him behind in Minnesota. And I thought Grandpappy in the past said, I'm not a big fan of gumbo. And I was really fucking scared that I would never see him again, because that's all we eat down in Louisiana is gumbo. Gumbo for breakfast, gumbo for lunch, gumbo for snacks, gumbo for dinner. And knowing Grandpa didn't like gumbo, I really was convinced that that was it. Grandpapa, out of my life forever. But when I told him there was a grocery store with different food offerings less than 3 miles away from the house, he said, Sonny, I'm coming down. It's been too long. And my dislike of gumbo has gotten in the way of our love. And when he showed up, he had with him a 500-piece jigsaw puzzle of the St. Paul Cathedral. We sat there for the next 6 days, put that puzzle together, laughed, cried, reminisced. 6 weeks later, Grandpa was dead. Drowning. There are a lot of lakes in Minnesota, many lakes, and he was an avid sailor. He loved going out there. And while he was out on one of the lakes, a storm came through and tipped his little sailboat over. And that was it. And all I had left to remember him was the puzzle of the St. Paul Cathedral that we did together. And I had so much fun putting that puzzle together. Excuse me. You know, it was the time spent with my grandpa that made it so special. The puzzle itself was a challenge, and I enjoyed that challenge. But doing a puzzle alone is nothing like doing a puzzle with a person that you love. So at that point, I said, puzzles are going to be my life. I got bad grades in school. I had puzzles on the mind. My dad really wanted me to play football, especially being in the South. And I said, I don't want to. I want to make puzzles. And oh boy, did he give me a whooping. He did not like that one bit. It was my dad's dream to have a son that was a big name football star, and I was his only son. And it's a lot to carry around. Children, by default, the reason for their existence is to be an extension of their parents. I get that. Parents don't meet their dreams. They don't do the things they want in life. And it's our job as children to step up and fill in all those gaps in our parents' lives. And I really wanted to do that for my dad, but I couldn't bring myself to do it because puzzles were the only thing I had passion about. And it took quite a long time. My dad and I were on strained terms for, probably 12 years, I'd say. There wasn't much discussion. He'd come home from work, grunt for the most part. If I got a grunt, I felt lucky. A lot of it was a sigh and a look of disappointment. So if I got a grunt, it was an acknowledgement. And I have to say, it was trying. Those were trying times. But I would go out to the tool shed, mostly at night, because my dad would go out there in the evening to avoid, my mom and me and life, because he would sit there and he'd smoke his cigars and down a handle of liquor every few nights. Still to this day, the smell of grain vodka takes me back to this place that I don't want to be. I dated a person once who was a big fan of grain vodka. I had to end the relationship because it just, smell has a way of taking you back. It is amazing. It is the one sense of ours that can just transport us to moments from our past. And every time we'd go out and she'd order that fucking drink, I thought of my dad sitting in the shed. I heard him weeping openly for hours one night. I had my window open. It was the fall, so it was cool. And it was just cooling off, and it was one of those first times we could finally open the window. You know how amazing that is, that time of year, right? You open the window and the crisp, fresh air blows in, and you're lying in bed, and you don't need air conditioning, but you don't need the heat yet, and it's just cool enough where you need the covers to keep you warm. And as I was drifting off, I heard my dad berating himself, sitting in that fucking shed, just talking about what a loser and a failure he was. And I went down, peered around the corner of the shed, in through the window, and he was punching himself in the face. And it was this moment of real clarity for me. My dad didn't hate me. He hated himself. And so I gently knocked on the door, and he pretended nothing had been happening. He wiped his eyes pretty quickly and changed his posture and toughened up and said, son, what are you doing awake? What's going on here? How much of that did you see and hear? And I said, I heard it all, Dad. And I want you to know, I love you. And at that point, I didn't have to hide my puzzle making anymore. Because, like I said, I was doing it late at night in the same shed where my dad would destroy himself, his ego, and just try to crush it into nothingness so he had zero feeling. And from that moment on, I didn't feel as though I needed to hide the puzzle making anymore. And I started taking over the shed earlier in the evening, which also kept my dad away from the shed, which also helped his confidence. And the transformation was unbelievable. He became supportive of the puzzle making. some nights he'd even come out and he'd say, anything I can do to help. And the truth is I didn't want him to help because it's an art form. And he doesn't fucking know how to do any of this. He's a moron. I mean, I would never say that to him, knowing how fragile he is. But the truth is he wasn't the brightest dude. And even if you were, no insult to him. It's puzzle making. Like I said, it's art. You have to have an intuition about it. And he just didn't have it. But I said, yes, Dad, come here. I want you to jump on that jigsaw over there and give me a ribbon cut. And he said, I have no clue what the hell a ribbon cut is. And I taught him. I taught him a ribbon cut, a random cut, die cut, custom cut. And we bonded like we had never bonded before. And that was the start of the Peterson Puzzle Company. Peterson and Father Puzzle Company. I thought it was kind of cool because usually it's Peterson and son, the father and son. But this time it was reversed, the son and father. It did kind of break up the alliteration. My whole life wanted to just call it Peterson Puzzles. And I had to work Dad in there. Peterson and Pop. Oh, jeez. I could have called it Peterson and Pop Puzzles. If only I had access to a thesaurus at the time. But that's what started my puzzle career. I would sell them at the local artisan fairs. We had things like the Mississippi River banks, the dome that the football team played in New Orleans, because that was big with people. As you know, I didn't give a shit about football. But the Saints, the team called the Saints, the puzzles were local Louisiana landmarks, and they sold like hotcakes, but I was outgrowing it, and I was thinking I need to get to a place where I can really flex my puzzle making prowess. And I went to New York. I made the move to New York, and it's expensive. Rents are expensive. I didn't have a workshop. I thought I could go to an industrial part of the city in the outer boroughs and get a place for cheap, but it's all been fucking converted into illegal housing because it's not up to code. It doesn't have proper kitchen hookups, and even the bathrooms probably aren't quite what they need to be, and there's not enough windows. But everyone's got to make their money. So when it became cool to live in industrial spaces, a lot of these were just converted in ways that didn't bring them up to code. And I threatened a few times to report. Like, I found a landlord. I just wanted a space of the warehouse, a little corner of the warehouse. And I said, I know what you're doing here, and if you don't give me what I want, which is a corner of your warehouse, you can still rent out the rest and make your fucking money. I don't give a shit, but I need a place to make my puzzles. I'm going to go down to the housing authority, and I'm going to report you, and they're going to shut you down. And that didn't go so well. I got punched in the face a few times, which, brought back memories. Just like smell can take you back to the past, being punched in the face can also take you right back to the past. And it reminded me of that night in the shed where my dad was punching himself in the face. But that didn't go so well. So I ended up getting a garden apartment that had backyard space, and that is where I make my puzzles to this day. And I know that there are people around who are trying to record podcasts, but I'm going to tell you something. I don't fucking give a shit, because my puzzles take priority. I will make noise all fucking hours. You don't get in the way of my passion. You think that your peace of mind and your desire to live your life trumps my puzzle making? Well, I've got news for you. This jigsaw ain't ever turning off. So if you hear something in the background of this recording, that's why. And it's been stressing me the fuck out. I also do have to travel. I'm going out of the country. Isn't that cool? My Wanderlust is taking me out of the country. I do have to travel for work. I'm not a person to brag about going to Finland, because why would I do that? Travel, we all know, does make people better than others. That's why I talk about it nonstop. I need to let others know that I'm superior. You've never even been out of the country. Well, let me tell you about how things go in different parts of the world, because I've been all over the place. Don't worry, I'm not going to go into a full made-up story about a person who travels, even though I could. I'll save that for the next time Autumn isn't here on the podcast. But I do have to travel, and knowing that I get worked up and stressed out, doesn't matter. I still haven't packed. I still haven't prepared. I got to do laundry. I bought some new AirPods, and I got to get to the Apple store. And I had the AirPods for 6 years. Okay, I'm not one of these people that, oh, the new gen is out, I got to go get them now. How dare you pass that judgment? Put that onto me. That is despicable of you to do. I would never. My iPhone at this point is 2.5 years old, and guess what? It's not a Pro. It only has 2 lenses. Yeah, tough pill to swallow. I get it. I only have 2 lenses though. So those photos of every single moment of my life that I need to capture aren't coming out in full resolution because I couldn't get that 3rd lens. But after I'm done recording this, I'll walk up to the Apple store and grab those, and then I'll come back and have to maybe I'll start the laundry first. That makes sense, right? You get things going, and the cycle's going to take an hour. But then I'll probably get into the basement, and somebody else will be using it. I never know. Quite often, the washer and dryer here, there's 1 washer and 1 dryer for 4 apartments. We share it. It's in the basement. People forget their laundry. The laundry cycle ends. They don't move it to the dryer. I am always hesitant to move it to the dryer because maybe there's some kind of clothes in there that the person doesn't want in the dryer. But I feel as though if you give someone an hour and they don't make the move, then it's fair game. I got to use the washer. I'm throwing your shit into the dryer. If there's something in there that shrinks, I apologize. You should have been on top of it. That feels like a fair thing. Or I could just leave the wet clothes on top of the dryer and not touch them. But then if I were the other person and I walked in, I'd think you didn't even start the dryer for me. What the fuck? It's a difficult thing to know how to navigate. Life is hard. Nobody said it was going to be easy, and this is what they meant. What do you do when you go into a laundry room and somebody else's clothes are still sitting in the washer? Or maybe they're in the dryer and you're ready to use the dryer. The wash is done. You take them out, you throw them in a pile, I guess. So I'll start the laundry, then I'll go to the Apple store. That's chef's kiss, brilliant plan. And then I'll come back and I'll pack, and I'll more than likely forget something. And then I'll get on the plane. Flying the other day. I've never really been one for neck pillows. I did fly with a neck pillow before, and I found it to be useful. But it's so goofy looking. I can't get over it. And yes, is the comfort more important than how you look? No, it's not. I would still fly in a suit. I wish that we'd still had to get dressed up. I'd put on a 3-piece suit for this transatlantic flight, and I'd sleep in that suit, but I'd also make sure that it wasn't wrinkled. So I'd have a steamer, and when I went to sleep and I woke up on the plane, I would go into the bathroom and steam it, because that kind of stuff is important to me. And the neck pillow, you put on your Juicy Couture pants. Do you have no shame? Juicy Couture with Crocs and a neck pillow. The point is, the neck pillow has tripled in size. There was a woman at the gate. It was so big that I get it would be very difficult to carry, so she just strapped it around her neck, and that's the way she was carrying it. This was the largest fucking neck pillow I've ever seen, and just describing it through words is not doing it justice. I wish I could telepathically relay the image of this absurdly oversized neck pillow that had to spill into the seats next to her. But of course she wouldn't care, because as long as her neck was supported while she was sleeping, who cares if other people had to bend their spines to the side to get out of the way, as long as she was able to sleep. But I'm not going to, any neck pillow, I'm not going to use one, even though the one time I did use it, it was comfortable. I'd rather fall asleep and have my head roll around and then jolt awake, gasping for air with pain in my neck, than to look like a goofball, making things more difficult than they need to be. I understand. I also just don't even want to fly. There was that plane crash yesterday in Brazil, that horrific plane. I don't know if you saw the video. It was in a flat spin, and thinking about the last moments of the people on board, 62 people, just spinning in circles, falling out of the air like a rock. Jesus, fuck. It is a horrific thought, and it's safer than driving a car. Your chances of dying in a car accident are higher than a plane. I get it. Those were still people, though, on that plane who died. And to state stats like that doesn't take that away. And also when you're in a car, I think there's this idea, even if it's not true, that you're in control. And that's probably the problem, is that you're actually in control, and humans shouldn't be in control of anything. But the fact that you're driving the car is probably what leads to the accident, that it's going to lead to your death. But there's also an idea, and I guess who fucking knows? I don't know the stats, that there's a higher percentage of survival in car accidents. It's probably true just because there's a wide range of them and there's so many different types. But there are plane accidents where they just skid off the runway and it's okay. Or the landing gear doesn't come down and they have to land with only the back wheels, and that's usually okay. So there are different types of plane crashes, but the ones where you're already really flying, the survival rate is low, and I think that's the frightening part of it. If it's happening, it's like, oh shit, well, there's not really, you can hold out hope when everything goes into slow motion in a car wreck, when you're speeding towards the telephone pole. Your brain can say, well, there's a chance that I survive this when in the plane and you're falling from the sky with the flat spin. It's no, you know. So it's leading to a really scrambled state of mind. That's the point of this show. The whole week had various incidents that I won't bore you with. Things that most well-adjusted people would say that wasn't a big deal. Your oatmeal overflowed in the bowl. Okay. But do you know what it's like to clean that up? It's very sticky. You throw it in the microwave for 3 minutes. That last 30 seconds, that is a minefield. Because I don't measure it properly. I just dump it in a bowl. I eye the milk. Set that thing for 3 minutes. And you got to really keep an eye on it for the last 30 seconds, because it'll start to overflow, and you got to stop it and start it again. The last 30 seconds can be like the end of a basketball game. It can go on for an hour, 2 hours. And when it spills over, I view it, it's not just the cleanup. Yes, the cleanup is difficult, but I view it as a failure. It's a failure on my part because I know better. So while a normal person would say, oh, okay, whatever, I'll clean that up and I'll get on with my day. That's it. The day is done. I'm not recovering from that. And as I'm dealing with these tragedies of life, I keep thinking I have to do this podcast. I got to get the podcast done, but I want to be able to do a good show. I need to be in the right mindset. And the days went by and that mindset never presented itself. And here we are on Saturday, and I'm feeling pretty good about it. I'm feeling okay. A little manic, as you can tell by the way I'm talking right now, but everything's going to be okay. I got to get the podcast out, and then I got to go to all the errands and the chores and get in the car and go to the airport and get through security and deal with the gate lice. And it's going to be a wonderful day. Wonderful. Yes. That's my losing my mind act. Thank you very much. I never wanted to be an actor, but after that performance, maybe I should have tried. Anyway, next week, I'm going to wrap this one up. Next week, I don't know what the fuck it was either. I actually do kind of like it, though. I'm sitting here thinking, I am enjoying this. I'm going to try to record with Autumn next week, but because I will be out of town and there's an 8-hour time difference, we'll see if it happens. Maybe it comes together. Maybe it doesn't. You could get one of those autumn-only shows, which I know that you prefer, especially probably after this episode, than the Greg-only shows. And really, who can blame you? Though I maintain that I'm feeling good about this episode. I like it, at least. It's a little different than what you normally get. I will leave you on whatever the fuck note this is. Have a good day, night, evening, morning. Goodbye.